Welcome to our podcast, where we resurrect the spirit of Nigeria's historic society of creatives. The Mbari Club was founded in 1961 at the University College Ibadan and nurtured geniuses like Achebe, Soyinka, and Fela. In each episode, we explore the craft of today's artists, preserving the stories of the storytellers that are shaping our generation.
You guys are always giving me all these very, very polite political answers. How are you doing? Good.
Today's guest is the self-proclaimed master of ballads. He creates music across various genres, including Afrofusion, folk, and Afropop. When not writing for himself, he has penned music for other acts such as Adekunle Gold and Ibiji, and his music has appeared in short films, ad campaigns, and TV series. We've heard the melodies, now let's listen to the composer. Please welcome Dwin the Stoic.
Hello, Dwin. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
What did you eat this morning?
What did I eat? Bread and stew.
Bread and stew.
Yeah.
Interesting. You know why I asked that?
Why?
Because I've seen that recently you've been cooking.
Yes. I'm a cookie. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been cooking a lot of new music. You've been teasing it on your social media. I know in the grand scheme of things, you're also working on an album and a lot of things you've been cooking in general.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd like to go into a lot of that in today's conversation. But as I always do, right, I like starting from the beginning of things. So I would try to remember. No, I actually do remember, like how I first heard of you, and then I'll speak to that, and then I'll now ask about your own origin story. So I remember the first time I saw your name was on Afrida.
Yes.
You wrote the story, right? I think it was either Ugly or one of the... No, it was Hunger.
Hungry,
Yeah. And I was like, nice, cool story. And I remember that because I used to write on Afrida as well. And I always used to look out. I was very competitive for some reason. So I always used to look out for like manga stories.
Yeah, you'll be like, who is good?
Yeah, like
who
is having more comments to their stories than me. And there was this babe, Zainab Omaki, who I just freed and said, she's first. Let me try and be second. And then I now saw Hunger, and I saw a lot of like reposts of Hunger. Like even though it's me. And then I remember I had a chat with Nancy Adimora, who runs Afrida.
I love Nancy.
And no, I was having like a 3-way chat with someone, and we were talking about Nancy, or either I was talking with Nancy, and we were talking about something about like one of our favorite writers. And you said Dwin, and he pinned me. Because I'm like,
I'm right here.
I'm like, I'm not first, I'm not even second. But yeah, so the name stuck in my head, right? And I knew you firstly as a writer, and I now remember it got to a point where you were about to drop Heavy Heart.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of mutuals, so people started posting, this is that. And you know how you know someone in your community is an up-and-coming artist, but you're not sure the music slaps. But they will pressure you to like use the picture as your DP and to repost.
Those kind of things, yeah.
And if you don't, it's like you're an op. So I'm not sure the music slaps. So like, it was a tough spot, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I knew you segued into music, and then I heard Heavy Heart and I fucked with it, and like happily ever after, right? So that's it from my own point of view. That's my origin story.
Yeah,
So I started out as a hater, and then you won me over, and now we are
this
here.
is the testimony of doing this Stoic's music. This is how we do it. Nah.
So yeah, on your own end, how did it kick off?
I think music was always just a thing. It was. I didn't know it was going to be a career. In fact, at the time when I dropped Heavy Heart, it was a for the plot type thing. I'm just going to drop this thing. People will see I can write songs and they will call me to write for them. That didn't happen. But I thought that would happen. I didn't. So I had a job. But at that point, I told my parents I had done NYSC. I had gotten a job at a tech firm. I was a tech consultant using my degree, my computer science degree. And like a year into the job, I'm still writing songs, but that's always been me since like 2007. I would always.
You've been writing songs since 2007.
Yes. That first song at 12. I was in secondary school and just wrote some.
Was it romance?
Yes, it was love.
You were in love at 12?
No, I wasn't in love. That's the thing. I've listened to so many writers. So that's another thing that helps me now. Because when people are like, I'm telling people like, trust me, if everything I sing about had to be my experiences, it would be tough to make a career out of this.
Fair enough,
right? Because I'll be on stage just every show, just, okay, guys, we'll take 5. But I think so. It was just the fact that you could tell a story. You could tell a story of love, and maybe because again, I just listened to writers like Paul Simon and Sam Smith and Ashan, just people, and so it was easy to write again at 12, write a song about love, and not even love in like, oh, I love you and more, almost like a forlorn thing. It was a very we're apart and we never come back together, and it was very dramatic, but it was fun, and so I kept doing it. I even getting into uni, I went on Coursera, did a songwriting course. I did a bunch of I just soaked up more. I listened to more, and thanks to that course, there was like a playlist of songwriters to listen to. So there was the Beatles, there was Paul Simon, there was that's a bunch of them, and in that, I just got soaked in because even the idea of songwriting was fascinating to me. I think the year Omaomi and Timi Dakolo were in Nigerian Idol.
Yeah.
There was the final. I think that was Chidima was MTN. I think.
Yeah.
But Omaomi Timi Dakolo, there was their final assignment. I think the next week they'll pick the winner. They've been doing covers of people's songs this whole time, and they say go and write a song for next week. You're going to perform an original song, and my 9-10-year-old brain was just, you mean just
you opened your head,
make up a song out of nowhere? Who does that? And again, I know songs exist, but that you just send someone to go and write and come back, I'm like, what do you mean? But then I got obsessed with songwriting, so that's what built into the courses and everything. And then I finished uni, put out one song, but again, it was a time when you couldn't be a musician. You couldn't think you're serious with your life. And I wasn't really doing music I was going to make money. It was just music I liked. And so the first song, The Lonely, I did that in uni. It was Noso Amadi and IBK. They were in Covenant University at the time. And they had made the beats. Actually, I didn't even know they were making the beat. 30, I had written the song with 30. And 30 just kind of took it to them. And they made
was 30 in CU as well?
30 was in CU. He was in secondary school with me. And we went to CU as well. Yeah. And so 30, just called me one day. It's like, let's go to this person's room. I want to record. I'm like, let's go. And so I record. I go on IT, put it out on SoundCloud. I remember where I'm at. I'm at my desk. I'm at Kakawa Publishing, Kakawa Discount House. It's a financial. And so I'm doing my IT work. I've gone to help someone in Treasury unplug their laptop, ran back to go and quickly check SoundCloud to see how many people have streamed. But I didn't post on social media. I didn't feel like I could. And so that continued. I was just hiding it. 2016 on my birthday, I dropped Stay the Night. Again, I'm not shouting about it, right? It's just there. And
Stay the
then
Night is a jam. Yeah.
Right. In fact, that's what made it have to be on Heavy Heart, because just like it's a jam. And then late 2017, I just sit my parents down. By this time, I'd already called 30 and said, I think I want to make an album. The first thing he says to me is finally. Because until then, I've just been sending music. I think I want to do this. He helped me produce, record Stay the Night. I was just like, I need work. Okay. He's like, oh, there's this studio here. He mixed it as well. And so it's like, and so I told my parents, oh, I think I'm going to do this thing. I'm recording an album right now. I have a job. So you are fine. I'm not leaving my job. I'm only telling you this because I live under your roof. It's not really permission. I've started recording the album. I just wanted you to know that, because for like 3 months, Monday to Friday, I'm at the office. Like this is the time where no car. So 5 o'clock, I'm up trying to catch a bus and to get to the work. And so my weeks are gone. But Saturday, Sunday, I'm in Ejigbo. I'm in the studio. I'm with 30. I'm working on Heavy Heart. Right. My friends come through depending on the songs.
How do your parents react? Are any of them musically inclined?
Yes. My dad had a brief stint in uni where he was a DJ to pay for things, and then he worked on radio where he had a radio show where he would do proverbs and all that. He was an artsy fellow. My mother is a fine art teacher. So there's art in the family, but
so they were soft to it.
But they were practical. And so that conversation, that how I even said it, couldn't have happened if I didn't have a job, like I had a proper, 9-to-5 job. Because before that, I was working as a scriptwriter. I intentionally made sure the job I would eventually get after uni. Yeah. I got it for NYC, but I told them to reject me. I was like, I'm not doing this right now. I want to go and work with this guy who's making the company behind Funny African Pics and a bunch of... I was writing ads. I worked with a bunch of clients there, but just, it was a way that built my advertising media, which will come to play later, of course. Yeah. And so I done that. And after that, NYC was ending and they were like, what's up? Well, this is not the work you're going to be doing, right? And so I had to I went back to those guys. Yeah. But when I got in that, I'd done training for a bit. I was, this was a path. Like, it was working with financial institutions. It was a very, possible career ahead. I'm like, okay, you know what? Since I have this happening, I can make an album. It's my money. It's nobody else's money. It's my savings. I'm just going to tell you I'm doing this thing. They were like, okay, cool. Do it. And I mean, I would say for them, like, they've been huge fans since. Since the album dropped, which has been great.
So like, you can't even drop all this type of jam.
No, I can't do that. Oh, my mother be saying no. My mother be saying, dude, you're doing great. Yeah, I know. It won't slap as it should just be like, it was one of those. Oh, my parents just really loved me. They
were nice.
They were nice. And so, like, even now, like, when I go visit them, they're asking about the label, everything that's happening. And so that starts it. I dropped this album, and then because of this album, I meet Rafi, who I've since this album, the Heavy Heart dropped in 2018. I met Rafi late 2018 because someone who he'd worked with heard my album, was like, we have to work. Let's get in the studio. We get in the studio, I meet Rafi. Rafi's his producer. Make a song that night that we never put out. Even the guy, he's not made music in a while. That's Utims, is the one who introduced us. But then me and Rafi, I'm working my job at that time. Rafi's, fully into music, but he's an engineer, so he's a music audio engineer. So he's working with a bunch of people. And we just kept meeting up, right? Just kept going back.
So thematically, right? Yeah. Speaking on Heavy Heart, as the name implies, heavy heart. Yeah. Again, like you said, you write music from all sorts of experiences, not just yours.
Yeah.
Could you walk us through Heavy Heart specifically and how you came about the album from a creative point of view, aside from at this point I'm ready to make an album.
Okay.
But like also the actual stories behind Heavy Heart.
Okay. So Heavy Heart was an album that just, I felt like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to do something that speaks to a couple things. And this is why the album got that name. It was love, but I always like to talk about love or anything about life in the way where it's never one thing, as many things are in life. It's like, love is, oh, I'm happy to see you. Love is also, you left for so long and I missed you. Love is also,
you're a real lover, boy.
I try. I'm trying to bring back a renaissance, a real lover renaissance.
You're like the alter ego of Ruga.
Yeah, yes. I'm the anti-Ruga. Should have 2 eye patches. But it was grief as well, and grief was there. I pulled from my own personal experience. Grief. I explored grief from the angle of I lost my sister. One of my sisters in 2012, and it for me was the first time dealing with it that directly. I mean, I had grandparents and whatnot, but and in that album, in the songs where I explored like heavy, like Happy Song and End of an Era, expressing that loss and just talking about it. But I think one song that was very pivotal to the album being what it was How You Do One. How You Do One was the first single, was the first song on the album, and How You Do One was me having a conversation with God, right? And it was me. I was in Accra at the time when I wrote a lot of the songs because I was working. The job I was working took me to Accra, to African countries for a bit, and I had written a watered down version of the song because I felt it's God. You don't want to offend people's sensibilities. You don't want to ask things that are a bit too off. But I also thought, but it's my song and it's my album and it's me talking to. And so I would say the things I want to say.
Yeah.
And let's see, right? And so then what that ends up doing is that it makes a lot of my music that comes after honest. Because now I don't even think of, should I not talk? Like I said, I have things I don't want to talk about. But if I'm talking about a thing in a song already, then I am talking about it. That's it. Yeah. And so Heavy Heart helped, even just the entire album, how honest I was, how raw, it makes it so that everything I'd done after, there was no fear. Because beginning Heavy Heart was to say, I'm going to do this music, I hope you like it, but this is the music you have. Like, I'm not, it won't become something else, right? Another thing I want to note about the album is Pack Your Load, which is, a cult classic among my people. It was a song that I wasn't going to put on the album because I was scared. In fact, if you check it now, it is Pack Your Load featuring Naimovic. Which is an alter ego I'd created at the time, because Naimovic was going to be the person who sounded Igbo, who I do these accents from time to time, and so the Igbo accent was something I would do, and I'm an Igbo boy, and it's not a thing I'm ashamed of. I would do it in the music and put it out, but it felt like
it's like the way Kendrick raps with like 4 different voices and personalities. Yeah.
And so I actually gave this one a name, and it's still there now. And if you search on Spotify, you see the artist, but I just never did anything with it since then. But I didn't want to put it on the album. It's like it sounded too, and it does sound like it's not the best engineered song. It was, but I put it out, and I had, my bandmate Ruka reach out to me and go like, "That's her mom's favorite song." Like, she heard it one time, just like, "Yeah, that's the song." And it was surprising for me, right? But it was also just very validating. Where it was like, now I look at music with, I like this song. There's a reason I like it, which means someone else will like it for that same reason, or even another reason, right? And so it gives me.
So if you like it, it's good enough.
Exactly.
I think that's a very interesting yardstick, because one of the things that I have been meaning to ask is, it's one thing to say you want to do music in this generation, and even more so, let's say, about 10 years ago when you were just getting into it. It's another thing to say you want to do music in Nigeria and you're not doing Afrobeat.
Yep.
Right, like, because, I mean, then the formula was you do Afrobeat bangers, you may catch on radio, you may get a few shows, and you get payouts from there.
Yeah.
But you're here come and tell people about love, and you're doing Westlife and Backstreet Boys and all that type of stuff.
Soft as guitar.
And you're never like dancing like P-Square. You're just singing.
I'm just
like,
singing.
So there's no...
And so what I found was that people want to be vulnerable. People are feeling things. We're human beings. That's the part of the contract that we didn't have a choice in. We kind of get enough. Here and here you go.
Feel stuff.
Yeah, just feel stuff. And a drive has been that so there was a time when I was, a bit more snobbish, I guess.
How so?
Around, you hear it with a couple alternative fans these days. I wrote a whole piece about talk to alternative fans, but I never published it one time. And it was the thing where, I listen to this music that has more, lyrics and depth, and so it's the better music. And so,
fair enough.
But the thing with music, like with everything in life, is that it's for moods, it's for times, it's for, right? And so what I saw a gap with, or what I felt I was doing, was catering to sometimes you want to just chill and listen to music. But it's never been that I would not make music to make you dance, which is what I'm trying to, as I've been moving, prove to people that I will, I want to make across, like, because again, it's just like, it's also feeding from my own influences. Till now, I listen to all sorts of music, right? I enjoy pop music. I enjoy Afrobeats. Like, there's no, as long as it's this music thing, right? As long as it's good music, I'm inside, right? And so it was a thing where, so there's something Rick Rubin said about, that's the producer of 99 Problems for Jay-Z, and he goes...
That's probably the most minimalistic description I've gotten for Rick Rubin in my life.
I feel like it's the one people would know. Because I feel like most people know the beat for 99 Problems.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah. And so he has this interview where he goes that he doesn't, I think he's underplaying his capabilities, but he goes, he doesn't know anything, can't do anything technically. People pay him for his taste. Yeah. And the thing about me doing the music I want is because most times you just need to, you can refine your taste, you can do everything, but last it's your taste. You just need to say, okay, this is what I consider cool. And then a lot of our music, this thing we do is putting it out and hoping people get what you are getting.
Yeah.
But you're getting something. And that's why even when you don't like a song, you're like, I don't know why people listen to it. The person that put it out got something. And so there are people who will get that thing. Right?
Let me not put it. I was going to ask, like, who was in your mind when you just made that statement? But let me not put it. I said no hard questions.
No hard questions. But I think it's a thing where, it was always in fact, because I entered the music without any expectations. Yeah. Right. I didn't collect money from anybody. I didn't loan money from. Like, it was just, I had my savings. I spent all of it on making this music.
You cut your clothes according to your size. And
so it's like, this is the music I can, like, you can't beat me. It's what I paid for, and I did it. So now, and so it comes down to, so even then, and I will say this, like, thankfully, I've had most of my career go without too many negative reviews. But I guess it's because, and I thought about this later, where it was like, I spent so long working on the music away from the public eye. right? You know how you build in public. I had worked on these songs. I had figured out a lot of the things before even putting out music, and so maybe that's why. But it helped that when that first album dropped, and in my head I knew that that's the least I could probably, like, that's the least I would ever do.
This is the floor.
And it's like, oh, you guys seem to like this, and even if it's just a small crowd, it's like the 100 of you that really. And I all my career, I've had people just when they comment on the music, it's with just a heavy, genuine. Like, I walk into a room. I was at a show once, and it was not my show. It was just I was performing somewhere at Kewe and Cam, and someone just comes up to me. She looks at me in the eye, just shakes my hand. She goes, "If I am changed my life," and then she just shook my hand and walked away. But then in that moment, it's everything they're giving to you, which it can be draining sometimes, right? But it's also genuine. Like, that's why it's draining, because it's people coming to you with very real emotions and saying, "Yo, I felt this thing listening to you," and most times they're saying it to you because they know you get it. People want to say how they feel. When people shout about be more vulnerable, people tend to be more vulnerable where they feel like, I'm saying to you that this thing hurt me here. And they know that you get what hurt me here means, right? I think that's
what you give them,
and that's what I think I still have with my fans now. Whereas I go to shows and my intimate shows, someone might be in their corner crying, but because this particular song, and the song might not by itself be the saddest thing, but it's just like for them, there's something there, right? And so and I won't lie, like, that's the sense of the niche, the power of community has been a driving force in just continuing to do this thing, because I know that the next song, the next album, there is someone that's going to sit down and listen to this album, and they'll feel things, and these things can be sadness or happiness, you know.
And we invite more people to it as well, to the experience.
See, I read the most beautiful thread just this morning. Someone who, I don't even know what country they're in, but they get into their Uber, and they tell the driver, they put on Winning
Bluetooth.
Bread.
Okay.
And they're listening to Winning Bread, and they're reading their novel, and they feel like a character in the movie, which, because my songs can sound very film-esque, right? People tend to hear that. So she's like, and then the Uber driver asks, "Who's this?" And then she goes, it's doing the Stoic, and tells him about me and everything. Because my people tend to not come in just for one song. They tend to consume a lot of it. And so she's talking about me. And then the Uber guy is like, "Oh, you know this person?" She's like, "Nope, nowhere from. I don't know him from anywhere." Like, even this thread, when I find it, the person not following me. They just really heard this music and just really loved it. And then they go on, and like, before he leaves, he's playing music from this thing. And so that means whoever enters his cab next probably hears. In fact, Rafi.
It's giving evangelism.
It is.
It's giving the lost chosen.
It really is. And I think it's a great part of this music that sometimes it's just people saying, "I love this thing so much, just come." And it's ironic because it was one of the things that was a problem initially, where because it's music that makes you feel, you're also careful with sharing it, usually. Someone said to me once, I think around when If and I was about to come out, a friend of mine, and she's like, "I know the problem, like with how the music is not as mainstream and whatnot. This song, for example, very beautiful song. I'll play it every time, but I probably will not play it on aux in the car."
I feel you.
Because your guys will go, "Okay, so
what's going on?
Hope not see." And fair that they do that, because you are playing a song you really love, but even that person has to now confront their own, because again, they might be feeling things as well. They're like, "Hey, I don't want to feel. I'm not trying to feel things right now." And so I won't lie, like, part of that was, I was like, "Oh, okay." It feels like maybe me too. I've been not telling people that I can do anything. I'm going to make jams you can share with your aux, and so streets and everything, you know. We try to balance both now. So it's been an interesting.
It's been a ride.
Yeah.
Speaking of the ride, right? You've had a very, very interesting ride. You said you were a tech bro.
Yeah.
And from there you had a stint with Zikoko.
Tech about first and then Zikoko.
Tech about Zikoko, and there's also the very first chapter of being an almost seminary boy. Right. Like, so there is a very
there's a lot there.
Yeah, it's a very interesting ride, right? But at some point, you also got to the stage where you're like, okay, there's God and music, there's tech and music, there's media and music, but I want to do just music now.
Yeah.
Right, which I would imagine was a very hard decision.
It was.
So at what point were you like, maybe I have all the things I need now to like do this thing full time, or either that, or maybe just I'm ready to sacrifice everything else and do this mainstream?
Okay. I would say, I feel like first time I'm saying this, but it came with a lot of tears, that decision.
To resign?
Yes.
As per work with the family, or like?
I was just very tired. I didn't want to work again. I was just stressed. But we must say tears because it was also me just jumping into the unknown.
Yeah.
I had never done music as the only thing before. So, and we live in Nigeria. You understand how that is just a very unsure thing to be doing.
We're living in Buhari's Nigeria.
In Buhari's Nigeria. And then I entered this in Tinubu's. Anyway, it was making a decision that, and so at this time, St. Clair Records didn't exist, even in my mind. It was just going to be, so my logic was simple. It was like, these two things I'm doing, editor-in-chief of Zikoko and, you know, this musician, I love both. In fact, from when I got the role, this was a decision I made. When I got the Tech About role, it was three things in front of me, actually. There was Tech About, senior editor at Tech About. There was music that I've been doing. I dropped some songs. And there was, I had just, during the lockdown, I started a company with my brother-in-law called The Contract Aid, and I was the CTO, and I had done an MVP I built. So I learned Node doing this thing and just built an MVP of, it was basically your lawyer in your pocket. It was supposed to target creatives. Yeah. And so if you had a contract in there to review or anything of sort, put it up there, pay a reasonable amount of money, an actual lawyer reads reviews, tells you what you should look out for and what you should. And so it felt like, and we got into an incubator. It was a nice thing. In fact, that was the first thing I reported on at Tech About. The winners, there were five of us who were winners for the incubator, and I wrote about that. But at some point it became, okay, let's choose. There's these three things. And thankfully, this was 2021, music wasn't going anywhere. Thankfully, we had got to a place where Ignis Brothers had dropped the album 2020, The Cost of Our Lives. And so...
What's an album?
Yes, an album. And so I'm very excited. Like, why I'm excited for this album we're doing now is because that's the last thing we did, and this was 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same crew. It's me, Rafi, Ruka, everybody around. And so... So at the time I had to make a choice, and so it was like, Tech About paying my bills. This is my job. I'm a senior editor now, and then there's music. So this is the thing that has to go. So we closed shop basically, and decided to not pursue that dream. But I think so. Coming back to, by the time I was leaving Zikoko, was that we're making a decision again. But now there's two things. But the truth is, even if one of these things was a full-time job, you would still be very stressed. It's a lot of work on both sides. So a decision needs to be made. And in this time, I had gone a year plus in the role. I had done some things I was very proud of. And I had learned a lot about media as well. And so even with how I work with the team in St. Clair, we are thinking about our media counterparts in a way where we think they want to be thought about, right? Not just as people to call up randomly when you need something from.
Money, yeah.
You kind of want to, you tell them stuff before others. You get them in. You create ways for them to be part of your journey. So making that decision, there was no St. Clair because there was no business plan per se. I just wanted to leave the job, take a break, and then face whatever. Of course, what ended up happening was I left the job and went to Cotonou for a bit. That was supposed to be the break. But turned out you leave your job and you go to a kind of a quieter city, and your brain opens up. And so a lot of the planning for St. Clair Records happens while I'm in.
When you're on break?
So I don't rest as much. So I've not rested really since then. But we continued and just... So even the idea for St. Clair Records starts to come just as I give a longer notice before I leave the job, and so by the time I'm leaving, the idea for St. Clair Records is forming. I'm working on a logo. I'm doing all these things, and I see how all my skills are coming together. Designing websites, I can do that because I've done that before. Shout out to Canva because I know that it's a brand, but I have to because it's like most of the things I've had to do. Like promotional material because I'm music, so we're constantly creating something. And from website to logo to everything rests on Canva right now. Yeah. And just as a company, as a business, I even try to emulate them because they found a way to... The product is the most important thing. You build a business around the product as opposed to what we tend to do where it's like you have a hint of a product and you're like, yes, let's get the money, right? But I love looking at companies who go, you know what, the product is the best it can be, and
then let's make money.
We are sure this will make money. So now let's just make that money, right? And so that's how we've approached the thing with. But getting to leaving the job and coming to create a company wasn't the easiest decision, but it was something that, you know, I'm glad we did. We had to.
Fair enough. And you started speaking about St. Clair already.
Yeah.
And obviously when you move from having a full-time job to doing music full-time,
Yeah.
it also means, as you've said, after the product is fully baked, you have to start thinking about making money.
Yeah.
So something I obviously want to know more about, and especially for people who are trying to figure out independent artistry on their own, is how do you look at monetization, just in terms of music and in terms of your brand in general?
Okay.
And how that ties into St. Clair, of
St.
course.
Clair. Okay, so as a business, I think it is to... So there are a lot of old recipes I employ, which is the fact that you go as far back as Madonna, and this is not that far back, right? Because there's... If you go further back, you have the Beatles and the rest. But one thing that has been consistent with artists who have created really good music and being hugely popular, which is money, is that they were made into brands. And what that meant was you were making money across different... Because the one thing I know for sure that has helped us is that it's never been a time where, as a musician, or before St. Clair, but as St. Clair, where it's only one, where I have one road out of, like, we're trying to raise money or trying to make money in one way, right? So as an artist now, and I like breaking this down. So as an artist, there's your likeness, which you can, usually when a label signs you, a big record label, they will tend to, for a period of time, they own your likeness as well. They will use it to promote you, they will use it to, but what they can also do with your likeness is tell a brand, hey, give us and our people some money and this person will be your brand, whatever. But of course, with St. Clair, we're going the indie route in a way where a huge focus for us is the artist.
Yeah.
The artist is making more money. The artist is, because we know how hard it is, right?
Yeah.
And so, so there's your likeness. Then your music. Let's say you have one song. That song is divided into two parts. There's the recording, the thing that we can all hear, we're playing, and there's the composition. If you're the person that wrote the song, you own both the composition and the recording. If you're an artist that writes your own song, because that's where you now get into, when you hear things like, an example, when Burna, they came out that, Burna, 60% of Last was going to Tony Braxton. There were a lot of uninformed, conversations where people were like, it's dumb. Why would you do that? It's a numbers game. He has a whole album where he's probably having, and this is just the publishing side, because the label will keep their masters, the recording, and he will earn from there. But as a songwriter, he's earning from here. But because you use someone else's song and they are big, they can demand for. An example, Sting, when
the Sting,
P. Diddy used his stuff, which is interesting to bring him up now. But it was a thing where Sting got 100%, because, you don't not clear someone's song. You can't use people's property. But the point is, your song has those two parts you can make money from. So as an artist now, you've always made your songs and recorded them, and it's all yours. There are two people you can be talking to at any point in time: a label that wants your recordings, and a publisher that wants your compositions, because those are two separate things. If someone wants to use your song in a movie, usually now they will just talk to the one artist because you're an independent artist and it's one place. But normally they talk to the label. You own the recording. We want to use the recording, this specific recording of this song, because there can be multiple recordings of a song. So who owns that song? And then we'll talk to that person. And so understanding this means that you know that you can make money from sync, right? Films, TV series, games. Game money is just... I'm trying to get me some of that. I'm trying to get me some of that because, usually why people love, like, I was watching an interview for Celeste, she's a British musician, and she was like, she doesn't have the most commercially successful album, but she has landed several. She has an Oscar nomination because she writes music that, and so her label, I think the Trial of the Chicago 7. It's a Netflix film that she had gotten an Oscar nomination for, and it was a thing where it's like, and that keeps her in good standing with her label. Like, she makes the music she wants. They don't see as much in terms of, she's not Beyonce, she's not making pop music, but they're making money from sync. She's making music that people are resonating with. And I mean, by the way, just definition of success varies. Her albums, every song on the album has over 1 million streams. But again, perspective, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it's a thing where, so you understand that. So now we've gone over your likeness, your music, right? Then there's doing shows, right? This is the money where less and less people can touch. Labels can't touch it as much, right? What's it called? Your publishers can't really. And so considering these 4 things, and then there's more ways, right? For example, for us to create Love Lane, the EP, we didn't have money. We went to meet, we did fundraising, and that was me borrowing from my tech people. That was me saying, oh, okay, so there's a way you guys do this thing, and I want to do it as well. So I'm like, you know what? This is Love Lane. This is something we want to make, and this is something that we'll do, so and so. And I have a track record. I've done, so I went to meet friends of mine.
Executed.
Yes, I've done work. And so I went to meet some tech friends of mine and some other just friends who had, cash, and they were like, oh, sure, here's a bit.
On the scale of believable to unbelievable, how liquid were they?
So I think my higher donors, definitely
rather unbelievable.
It's a thing where I also know that most of them were just it's my guy. And my guy wants to run this thing, and I have, I don't know, some money, and so do something with it. And of course, this is not for Dash. You then.
How did you structure it?
So I went the route of just structuring in terms of streaming income. So what can be made from this thing? Streaming income and sync income. There are 2 ways you can make money from your piece of music. And so I said, you know what, I'll give you a cut of both. Usually people do a thing where it's just streaming, but I also know the realities of streaming. I know that streaming money trickles, at least when you're not.
And you don't want to be bad
major.
market.
I don't want to be, I'm not that kind of, I don't cheat people. So I and while sync is also left to chance most of the time. You pitch and maybe they accept. It's a thing where, but this is the market we're trying to own. We want to own sync. So we're going to try and make money off sync, and we're going to give you some of that in addition to streaming. So for everybody who's invested, we created a structure where they get a bit of both for a couple of years. Because again, even when you sign with like a label, most times your term is a couple of years because music takes time from when it's, because now, and for example, a year after Love Lane comes out, Streets is on a Disney Plus production. So sync. But also Streets has crossed 1 million streams on all platforms. So streaming income. Yeah. Again, it's not.
See, they're eating.
Exactly. It's not $1 million that's coming in. It's not. But
it's not 10x.
Yes. But that's why we're stretching it over time. So who knows what happens in the next 2 months for this same project and I'm about to release another album. But what happens with that is I will do shows. I'll play my old songs. Till now, when I do shows, songs from Heavy Heart feature. And so what that means is people are still they're interacting with the entire catalog at any point in time. And so yes, and another advice to artists, just constantly think in terms of catalog. Mm-hmm. I want a body of work. I want to have just things for people to listen to, And so it helped me with just putting out music regardless of what was happening around me.
So speaking of building a catalog, what would you, if you were to just give us the cheat code, what would you say is the formula for a ballad?
For a ballad?
Yeah. I mean, you're a tech person now. You know your equation.
Yes,
so.
Yes. So I would say you need sincerity. And this doesn't, and why I say sincerity is because it's not about how you sing or what you're singing about. Mm-hmm. People, and I can't even give you a specific what it is, but people can hear when it feels like you're feeling what you're singing. A comment I get a lot sometimes, people will say things like, oh, he enjoys his music, and I do. I genuinely enjoy my music, and so it's a thing where it's then hard for people to not connect with it because they're like, this person seems to be inside the thing. But sincerity in terms of the words you're saying. So I use metaphors, but I try not to make them too hard to decipher, right? I want to use words that people can say to each other just in regular speak, right? So it's like, I'll throw in a big word here and there because I'm a writer, no? So streets now, something like streets. The chorus is quite simple.
So you're saying like with sincerity, so everything saying on the songs we can hold you accountable for because you really mean it. It's not like
them. It should sound like you do, exactly. Because again,
so it's not like them young thug. Oh, he didn't mean what he said in the verse. He
actually said that shit. Yes, and it's like it's a thing where you have the sincerity there because
Yeah.
it's what people connect to a lot of times is that people can then, how do I put now? So, when I describe how my fans come to me and say how they feel about the music, I think a lot of that is also because of how I try to, there's a bit of acting in this thing because you're performing. It's a performance, right?
It's a
you perform
sincere
a song.
performance.
Yes, that's the thing. It is. No, that's why craft is very interesting. It's like with actors, you see a person on screen and they just got insulted or slapped, and then their face is shaking and they're crying. Now, of course, they're probably fine. Maybe the slap was real. But the thing is, but in that moment, what are you getting? Someone is crying, and they mean something hurt them, and so you making your music, you want to whatever it is. And again, I'm saying this with all emotions and whatnot. But even if you're talking about a nice turned night out,
Yeah.
let it sound like you're actually having
a good time.
Yeah, but
fair enough.
Yeah, and I think the other part would be definitely, I mean, just make interesting music is the thing. When I work with Rafi,
Interesting is very
subjective. Is it subjective?
Yes.
It's a thing where, and that's where taste comes in, no?
Fair enough.
And
like you said, everything is valid, right?
Everything's valid.
Most things are valid, not everything.
Most things are valid. And the thing now is there's also the part of, taste that you can also, beat your taste into shape, basically.
Yeah.
Listen to the things you consider good. Listen to more of them, right? So for me now, I was out one night and drinking with friends at Moist, and it was salsa night. And so there was just a whole night of salsa songs. And following that, I just really liked the songs. So I shazammed a bunch of them and I just kept listening to them. And then the next time I had a chance to be in the studio, I had a salsa song. But it's just come from gathering, right? I already knew the genre. I listened to the genre. It was not my first time. But there is also a part of it where you have to you have to actually say, okay, you know what, this thing I'm trying to do, am I doing it in the way that,
the masters have done it.
Right? You want to borrow from people as well. You want to know, okay, what's if you're doing an Afrobeat song, and something that I like that our people are doing more and more, is that you're doing a song for the club doesn't mean violins don't have a place in it necessarily. Now, for the song you have, it might not be it's taste, it's choice, but maybe your song with Ashaka, just violence in there, and they make people feel things, right? So the recipe is really just, I never really say to anyone, because I've listened to people write songs in structures that just made no sense to me, but they were jams. Just, this is a fun song.
Yeah.
So that's where taste comes in. It's why I'm never fully dismissive, because it's you're doing something here. Now, I can say it's not for me, but you are doing
He
something.
had his audience,
So that's it.
Fair enough. You've spoken a lot about doing work with Rafi, doing work with Ruka, who I love so much, and your usual collaborators, right? You've also done writing work for Adekunle.
Yes,
you collaborated with TDB.
Yes.
Looking forward, right? Speaking into the void.
Yeah.
What collaborations are you forming fingers crossed and prayers up for?
I'll just say this song because we're trying to make it happen. To Baba, hi. Yes, I really want to. You have my number. Anyway,
if you know someone that knows someone, if you're at his house and watching just call him to the parlor.
Just tap him. He's your guy. But Asha definitely. I want to work with my heroes. That's actually just so. Overall, it's two people. It's two sets of people I want to work with. My heroes and people who are doing work I fuck with. That's it.
Yeah. So your heroes, Tubaba.
So Tubaba, Asha, Sam Smith, Labyrinth, high up there. Yeah, I really want to work with Labyrinth. Paul Simon, God keep him. Because he's an old man now, but I really want to work with him.
On the other end, people who are doing work you fuck with. So Piers,
I say Truce, definitely want to work with him. Adoma, the people already on my album, I've worked with them, like Lindsay Abude, O'Brien, Kate Bass. She's a beautiful musician from the US. Ife Oraka, I've worked with her already. People I'm looking to work with, Chella. He's a brilliant musician from Abuja. So just a bunch of people I really want to work with. Ola, she's a German singer, but she's Nigerian.
Okay.
Ogie, she's American, but also, great musician. So there's just a bunch of people I have on my radar. And because I'm also, there's a part of me that's also like just a music exec. I'm just constantly listening now to who is doing what are you doing? So I'm also just, I have this, again, I think people talk about delusion in business and how half the spice is really just being deluded enough to think, oh, this is my own thing. It's not new in that other people are not doing the record label, but this is my own thing. It's going to be different. It's going to be a big thing. And so I have that same dream for St. Clair where I want us to become as big as what Def Jam is now, right? And so what that means, you don't grow to that level with just 2-3 artists. You have a roster. And so I hope to, so I'm constantly listening to other artists.
So you're also looking to actively sign people, produce music outside what you write for yourself.
Definitely. I want to produce albums for, in fact, I don't even need to sign people. I just need to I don't need to sign the people I want to work with all the time. So there are people who I think we can bring value to in terms of where we're at as a label. We're constantly growing. That's what we're doing. And so what that means is we'll meet an artist that probably needs the extra 5% we've grown in the last 1 year. Right? And so we give them that. There's an artist who probably is just really big, and what we have that they will probably need is just the music. And so we come in. And so I have this dream of just, once we're done with our projects this year, Rafi and I, we just kind of work with artists, make their music become, produce albums, produce bodies of work, and of course work with films. Want to score films. I think it's in fact, for St. Clair as a whole, I think in reading the Wikipedia pages and biographies of a bunch of these labels and when they were young, I find like a key defining thing was always that they will have an OST that they will produce early in their label time. So it's like,
so you're really trying to do an OST.
I'm trying to do an OST. And so my album is almost like an OST of its own, but it's like,
you know how like John Bellion did The Hand of God album and said for him he always wanted to do like a Disney thing, and for him even though Disney are not called him, he's like, I'm making my Disney OST now.
And it's the best thing because in fact I had this idea to do a biopic, and I think I'll just share, because I think that as a people who have very interesting characters have just passed through, have been Nigerian, and we make great music. The fact that a musical biopic that of
musicals firstly, then musicals biopic,
that they don't exist, that I've not watched a reenactment of Sunny Ade on stage. Not stage as per, like it's a film, but he's on stage. And that in the same way I watched Chadwick Boseman play James Brown and become James Brown. And now, while I know James Brown, the artist, that video film comes to mind.
And I think, speaking of, I also remember watching the Elvis biopic, and it wasn't just Elvis on stage. It was Elvis on stage, but the music and the OST around it was so contemporary as well.
Exactly.
Right? Even with Elvis.
There's so much we can experiment with. And I know Nigerian artists, like, you can open TikTok, someone is doing a remix of something, and it's brilliant. Enough. And so it's like, what does that look like if you take...
So we have the sauce, we have the ingredients.
We have it. We just need, and that's where it comes with the whole, you kind of need to do your own, because what then became this album I'm making, Master of Ballads, is that I actually started to create a character who would then get a biopic, because I was going to...
So you're making it, you're doing a film?
Essentially, but it's not me, because what I found is that I don't have the money to get the rights to one of these existing superstars who have put Nigeria on the map, right? To get their rights and all that. So what will I do? I'll make original music, create a character who embodies that original music.
And tell your own story around it.
But I definitely want it to be a thing that spurs people on, right? We have so many stories to tell. I think that, so like, let's get to it really. I think because once we are able to hack, like I keep saying, Nigerians have everything, right? I like this imaginary biopic that I'm imagining in my head now. We have some of the best sound engineers, some of the best musicians. So that means whatever you're hearing in the movie, stellar. We have brilliant actors. We have brilliant writers. So a great story. And you're drawing from someone's life. So there doesn't need to be, too much. You just need to write interesting dialogue. And we as a people have interesting dialogue, right? And so throw in what else? Styling. We dress for days, right? what else? What's left to make this thing a reality? And so that's how I think about these things. And so in our own small way, St. Clair, we've been trying to put together again, we're focusing on music, but visuals now, we're trying to stretch, the imagination and all that. And we're very, I say this for me personally, but also for the company, we're very, to use a tech word, bullish about the Nigerian music industry because
I smiled because bullish is a finance word.
Interesting that the technical story.
And I like how I don't like how you guys are so
comfortable.
So imperialist with like the way I'm moving. Like, what do you mean tech word?
But yeah, no, it's cause it's like I really think like we barely and I say this probably at the risk of something, but we barely have an industry right now.
Yeah,
we have a couple of people who the American and other industries are taking. Like you see a lot of our artists now. Check who they're signed to. Sony Music, Japan, or something. Someone is in, or they just kind of find their way to the UK and sign with them, or they're in here, but where the money comes from is outside. And I keep saying this to whoever will listen. We've been here before, right? Go back to the 80s, 90s. Everybody who was a major Nigerian musician was signed to someone outside, like a label from outside. But the industry became, hard to live with, and so they left around the 90s. And now they're back. Yeah. My whole thing is, let's take advantage of that now. They're back. So that means, okay, more labels should be springing up here. Working with these people, but creating our own structure, right? That I can't tour easily in this country is a problem for the industry because a long career, longevity, is by just having the ability to build an audience that has, first of all, gotten used to seeing you live. Yeah. Some artists have fans now that just never seen them live because either I only see you in December, and if you have a show, it's in a place where it's 3,000 people and I don't want to get trampled, so I'm not going to bother showing up, right? Those are the things you're having to grapple with as an artist. Meanwhile, a star like Elton John, who I don't know when he released an album last. I mean, he stayed relevant in just all the many ways, but he will tour. I think he holds the record for the longest running tour. Like for years, he just kept it going, right? And why not? People are buying.
He refused to go home.
He said, no, I'm on the road, right? And I that is, for me, like at St. Clair, that is the career I want to build for everybody. I think this thing can be... It's just, we don't go, man. We're outside. Where we go, we know we're going home. Outside.
All those babes are like, I want to marry.
No, still outside. Streets never tire me, it takes. But yeah, it's so I really like, I'm at this place where it's like I really want to, so even the work we're doing with other artists and whatnot, we're building our own little like our cocoon, we're making sure it works with structure because I want it so that when I'm signing another artist, you're coming to meet a structure that is rival, like we have the levels, right? And so it's an interesting journey, tough but interesting.
Okay. So music aside and masters of ballads aside, when I mean music, I mean your own personal music aside, right? And masters of ballads aside, what are you most excited about, like creatively
this year?
Yeah,
I would say Rafi's project.
Rafi's project.
Yeah, Rafi has a solo project of his own. I featured in his first solo release recently.
So I know Rafi as a producer.
Yeah.
So is this him on some SARS type shit?
No, this is
like,
him on some Kanye shit.
Yeah,
okay. Like I can rap, I can sing, I can do everything. But he's mostly singing. And it's like and he why we gelled was because we also have this very multi-genre approach to music where it's like, as far as his music, we're fine.
Yeah, we can.
Right. And so his project is amazing. It's an EP. We're hoping for that to be out by Q4. And I'm very excited for people to hear it because all I'm imagining is, so we're trying to do so last year I did a show called An Acoustic Christmas. And this year we're likely going to make it a St. Clair Christmas. Just the whole gang. Find a beautiful stage somewhere. And just put on a great show.
Hopefully, multiple beautiful stages.
Hopefully, the St. Clair Christmas will probably just be the kickoff for the Master of Ballads tour.
Okay.
And then we'll now enter the road properly. We're going to do a Love Lane tour. We're hoping to hit a couple cities in Nigeria and Ghana and Kenya, hopefully. But for Master of Ballads tour, we definitely want to aim for Europe and beyond, really. Yeah.
All right. I'm looking forward to that.
Same.
I'll definitely catch you in Lagos.
Yes, please.
If fortune allows, I'll catch you in other places as well.
Love
Because
it.
I'm
I
very,
love it.
very pro catching my people outside Lagos.
It's
Because
necessary.
there's always this different vibe you see, like
Right.
where you see the Lagos crowd respond, and then you see like the foreign crowd respond, and there's always such a
Yeah, there's something interesting about performing in your city and then
yeah. But yeah, looking forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to Masters of Ballads as well.
Yeah.
So to you then, thank you very much for coming to chat.
Thank you for having me.
Hope
It was
to
fun.
probably see one of you act here soon enough.
Definitely. I think even my drag Timmy is our we're building St. Clair together, so he'll probably come here and yarn a
Shout
bit
out
about
Timmy.
how he's seeing this side of things as well. Because I dragged him from all these other he was
other
doing
stuff,
podcasts
yeah,
and working in and he just he's we're building this thing together where it's like we really want to make like just as many people as possible hear this music because it's good. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having me, man. This is fun.
You're welcome. Cheers.